Hello gorgeous peeps and welcome to another lip-smackingly delicious episode of Techspert Weekly, the weekly tech news show where I essentially just read bits of the internet to you and insert the occasional title knob gag for flavour. It's a waste of your time and mine, and yet here we are 125 episodes later and still going strong. Oh, and by the way, this episode right here is dedicated to her Madge QE2, a fellow booze appreciator. Like the rest of our fine nation, I paid my respects to her this week by getting absolutely shitted and screaming at the walls until I eventually passed out in a puddle of my own highly patriotic urine. Of course, that's not really any different to usual, but at least this week I felt approximately 8% less guilt and shame. It's what her Madgeness would have wanted after all. Anyway, Techspert salute you, mom, and to honour your legend, here's a bunch of chat about smartphones and other shiny bollocks. Techspert Weekly! So this week has seen various Xiaomi 12T rumours spread across the internet, even faster than a virulent case of crabs in a dodgy Geordie discotheque. The Xiaomi 12T and the Xiaomi 12T Pro are naturally successors to the excellent 12 and 12 Pro which launched earlier this year, offering some nifty upgrades to the already pretty bloody tasty tech, including especially their camera shenanigans. If you recall, Xiaomi entered a partnership with optics expert Leica earlier this year, who previously helped Huawei to produce some of the best camera phones of all time. So the Xiaomi 12T's 108MP snapper using Samsung's HM6 sensor should hopefully serve up some great looking pics in any conditions. However, the Pro model is said to pack an even more beastly 200 megapixel camera sensor, just like Motorola's fresh new Moto Edge 30 Ultra. And this will likely use the same 12-in-1 pixel bin for low light photography, so the 12T should put in quite the performance at night time, just like your mum. Unless you're Prince Charles, of course, in which case disregard that joke. Your mum would never do such a thing, sir, never ever. I mean, especially not now that she's a stiff, but not when she was alive either. I mean, obviously she did do it at some point, because otherwise you wouldn't exist, but you know, she would have done it in the proper British manner with great reluctance and a hearty dose of humiliation. And by the way, sir, while we're having this little discourse, I hope you're really enjoying the show and you feel that it's a fitting tribute to your dead mum and definitely worthy of a knighthood or two. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. According to rumours, the new Xiaomi 12T series should look an awful lot like the Redmi K50, while packing many of the same specs of the K50 Extreme Edition, which launched last month, just without all that Mercedes bollocks. The Xiaomi 12T Pro will be powered by Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, like a lot of new Android flagships, while the regular 12T will instead run off of MediaTek's Dimensity 8100 Ultra, a 5nm chipset that hasn't even launched yet. But either way, you can expect nippy performance and some dedicated cooling tech for all that hot gaming action. The one part of the leaks that makes me a bit sad is the fact that the Xiaomi 12T and 12T Pro will be whopping great 6.67 inch slabs. That 12T won't be refreshingly compact like the old Xiaomi 12. Still, because these phones are big buggers, they'll apparently each pack a 5000 mAh battery, with the regular 12T's 67W charging upgraded to 120W wide charging on the Pro model. Now, rumour has it that the Xiaomi 12T series will be launching this month across Europe, which presumably must be the very arse end of September, if it's true, because we're already halfway through the bloody month and not a peep so far. But stay tuned, hopefully more info on all of that shenanigans soon. And in more tasty Xiaomi news, apparently they're gearing up to launch the fresh new Xiaomi 13 series over in China around November time, so only a couple of months after the 12T stuff goes live. Inevitably, however, this will be a China-only launch, and here in the UK and across Europe, we'll probably see the Xiaomi 13 smartphones early 2023. Most likely early January, when I'm still proper on my arse with a horrendous New Year's hangover. Also this week, Sonos revealed its fresh new Sub Mini, a dinkier version of its original Sub designed for smaller homesteads. 429 quid bags you a funky cylindrical bastard which effortlessly pairs with a wide selection of Sonos speakers. Apparently it can automatically tweak the sound to suit the room that it is sat in, while the dual woofer design cancels out any vibrations and assaults your face with some proper full-on bass. The Sonos Sub Mini will be available to buy here in Blighty and stateside on October the 6th, and hopefully I'll be bringing you a full in-depth review before that date. Anyway, now it's time for the part of the show that's normally known as viewer comments, but this week will be known as comments from loyal Regal viewers and also some people who might not live in the Commonwealth but who are probably still a bit sad that such a lovely old lady has copped it. Fewer comments.
Oh, really?
So perhaps not too surprisingly, lots of comments from last week about the iPhone 14 launch, or a deja vu drenched piss take, as I like to call it. So let's start with Eves Coleman, who says, I use an iPhone, but I completely endorse your analysis of the iPhone 14 launch. Coach Soappill doesn't quite agree so strongly. He says, all he does is bash Apple and then creams his pants over some cheap Nokia Android. Okay, listen, Coach, if you dangled a Nokia smartphone in front of me right now, I most definitely would not cream my pants. Although, yeah, that is partly because your mum has already completely drained me. Insatiable, that woman. But yes, it is true, I do review budget smartphones, unlike a lot of my peers here on the YouTubes. And of course, budget smartphones have their own fair share of problems, that's for damn sure, and I'm sure to point those out in my reviews when I do them. But of course, little irritations like big fat bezels and a ropey UI are easier to forgive when you've only spent a couple £100 on a smartphone rather than a full bloody grand. Very Scouse Mike says, completely agree about the iPhone. LCCG Film says, I don't think I've ever seen such a hyped up but disappointing launch. The biggest new feature is a slightly better always on display and a satellite communications thing that would turn into a subscription service afterwards. Yeah, I believe it's 2 years you get it for, and then it's extra cash please suckers, or otherwise upgrade to our latest model for another fresh grand, tar very much. Yamamoto though counters with, not honest though, it's biased and he's talking about something he's not reviewed in hand. Oh, but I very much have reviewed the iPhone 14, my friends, back when it was called the iPhone 13. Actually, that's not entirely true. Of the previous series, I only reviewed the iPhone 13 Mini and the iPhone 13 Pro Max. And of the pair of those, I definitely preferred the iPhone 13 Mini because it didn't make me feel like I had a fucking submarine wedged into my trousers. So yeah, I am kind of gutted actually that Apple decided to scrap the mini model entirely for the iPhone 14 series. It's kind of as if like the writers of Cobra Kai decided to just bump off Johnny, write him out of the show. It's like, no, he's the best one. If you're going to get rid of any of these then get rid of that annoying nerdy kid, or even Daniel, to be fair, little goody two-shoes cockwomble. But yeah, I admit I do tend to lean to Apple pretty hard after each of their launches, if only to restore the balance a little bit from all the endless gushing and frothing at the mouth from their very own circle jerk crew who bestow endless praise on any new iPhone or shiny bollocks that they come up with, just out of fear of being blacklisted and never being invited to another Apple launch ever again. And next up is Maggio, who says, I don't like Apple as much as the next guy, but you have to agree that Dynamic Island is actually dope. The rest of the phone is just the 13 with a new name. Dynamic Island, what a bloody name. Somebody probably got paid hundreds of dollars to come up with that f***ing name right there. Just call it what it is, Apple. It's a floater. It's a lingering floater that can't be flushed away. But yeah, I've got to hand it to Apple, actually, fair play to them. They've taken a really ugly feature and they've made the most of it. They've turned it into something that actually looks quite snazzy. Although I'm betting people will think it's decidedly less snazzy when they're trying to watch a movie or play a game and they've got that big old floater just sat there masking half of the action. Next up, Travis Chafin says, thank you, Uncle Spurt, for the Apple slander. Now, I'm no legal expert, but I think technically it's only slander if it's not true. So when I say that Apple are a bunch of piss-taking joy boys who charge excessively for outdated tech, it's not slander. And by the way, I am going to try and review at least a couple of the iPhone 14 models at some point. Obviously, it won't be anytime soon because Apple sure as shit aren't going to send me any. Davin says, my favourite part of the fall is Uncle Spurt unloading on each iPhone launch event with the same level of ire as if somebody swapped out his favourite booze with flavoured water. I mean, the person in question might just be genuinely concerned for the state of my health and, trying to save what remains of my battered old liver. But yeah, they probably would get a kick in the cock at the remains of that fruity water poured right over their fucking head. This comment's not entirely about iPhones. Anthony says, never thought I'd say this, but that Motorola looks more tempting than the iPhone. Yeah, I'm assuming you're referring to the Motorola Edge 30 Ultra, which I just happen to have had packed into my pocket right now. Full unboxing went live on Thursday, by the way. Hint, hint, hint. Go check that out. Yeah, like the iPhone, the Ultra ain't cheap. Starts at 749 quid. But if you want a stock Android flagship smartphone, it is a delightful little package. No floater in sight, always a bonus. I'm hoping to smash out a full review of this next week once I've used it for a few more days. Got my SIM in there right now. Next up, Big Master Moore says, you are officially my favourite tech reviewer now. Oh, thanks, Big Master Moore. Well, you're officially my favourite YouTube comments guy. I'm really running out of time, so just a couple more quick comments. Michael Keith says, possibly your finest intro to date, and is everything okay at home? Absolutely wonderful. Thanks, Michael. Nothing to complain about. I haven't actually been home that much recently, actually, because of all of the random launches happening all over the place. The fact that travel is now a thing. But if anything, that means that my wife isn't completely sick of the f***ing sight of me, so that's always a bonus. And last up, the bearded one says, sad to hear you had an Uncle Kevin too. He was a right miserable bastard. It's always the Kevins, always. Got to watch out for them. Anywho, a massive thank you to everyone who commented last week. Hopefully less iPhone comments for next week, because I'm already sick of bloody banging on about them. But yes, please do regurgitate your thoughts, your feelings, whatever you want down in the comment section below, and we'll try and smash our way through as many of those as possible next week. And speaking of next week,
this is about next week.
Next week I have the dentist and an eye appointment. What a f***ing thriller. Nothing else to speak of beyond, of course, Her Majesty QE2's funeral on Monday. So day off work, so I'll probably be pass out drunk by lunchtime. And I'm going to bring you lots of tasty tech videos in between all of the excessive drinking as well. So definitely have yourselves a bloody wonderful weekend. Thanks again for joining me for another 15 minutes of utter drivel. See you on the flip side. Cheers everyone, love you.